You're tuned in to KEXP. You can find us at 90.3 FM in Seattle, streaming around the world at KEXP.org. I'm Cheryl Waters. It is always my great pleasure to have this band live in studio. It's Superchunk. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a little while since we've seen you. Again, I just love always to hear you perform live. Tonight you're playing at Neumos with Bat Fangs, who came in and did an early set this morning. That was super fun. And the live music continues on KEXP. It's Superchunk.
It's called Lost My Brain.
I don't know, and I can't explain. Lost my heart, and I lost my brain. I surrendered to the flow, I gave up all my strength. I didn't love anything from them, and I lost count of all the shame. I don't know.
Superchunk live on KEXP. Songs from the new album, What a Time to Be Alive, came out this month on Merge Records, and it is always so great to have you here. First off, welcome to the studios. Thank you so much for coming in.
I lost a piece of my cymbal.
John just walked all the way across the room and picked something up at my feet, a piece of his cymbals. So suffice it to say, this is a rock and roll record, and you all are rocking out here today.
The new studios are awesome. This is the first time we've been in here, so it's great.
Yeah, boy, and it's hard to remember. I know it's been a little while since Superchunk's here. Mac, the last time you were in studio was in our old space with the Non-Believers.
Yes.
And all of you have been in here with different bands at different times. It's just always so fun to hear you play live. Can you introduce who's here with you today, Mac?
Sure. On electric guitar, Jim Wilbur. Hello. On bass guitar, Jason Narducci. And on the drum kit, part of his drum kit anyway, John Worster.
Hello.
You got it back together there, John?
I do.
For now, anyway, until he knocks it off again. And we always, again, love having all of you here, and we love Jason. We also love Laura, and we miss seeing her play live, but love that she's all over this record. And I do just want to jump right into talking about What a Time to Be Alive. When I first heard the title of the new album, I didn't even know Superchunk was working on a record. I was completely intrigued by the title. So I started listening to one song after another, and I just started filling up with emotion, anger, and frustration.
That's what we like our records to do, fill the listener with anger and frustration.
But the energy in the lyrics and the music is so palpable. And Mac, I know that the albums germinate with you. You start by writing the songs and you write the lyrics. Tell me a bit about what this album is about.
I think that it's, as you could tell just from listening to it, it's largely about just living in these times and how you navigate the anger and the frustration that you were talking about just in your day-to-day life when it's hard to ignore everything that's happening around you. And you can't ignore it and you don't want to, but at the same time you don't want to go crazy. So I think that's the gist of the record.
Certainly you were inspired by the state of politics, but I've heard you talk in interviews about how this is not necessarily a political record, even though you're covering the state of affairs that's going on right now. Can you speak to that? Because I know you have children, and they're old enough to see the news. I mean, how do you go home and talk to your kids about what's going on?
I mean, I think that in some ways, as adults, and for me anyway, it's hard to not follow every inch of the news as it's happening. But I think kids can just kind of glance at it and get a sense really quick as to who the good guys are and who the bad guys are in a given situation. Because I feel like kids today grow up feeling and just having a innate understanding that people should have human rights and civil rights and these things that, we might take for granted or we shouldn't take for granted. But I think that they see how this will affect their life in the future, and certainly as a parent, you see how it's going to possibly affect their life in the future. So that certainly played into the record, and it was written all leading up to the election in 2016, and then a couple of months after that, and then we made the record pretty quickly, and I felt like it was like, as you said, I don't like really calling it a political record because that sounds pretty dry. But I felt like it was important to kind of get it out there while the feeling was still fresh,
Mac, I have heard you say in interviews, you write for a number of bands, Portastatic, your solo work, and Superchunk. And when you start writing for Superchunk, you can hear all these players playing the songs in your head because you know them so well. And
yeah, I think that's true. And because when I'm writing, it's just me and maybe a drum machine or something like that, and an electric guitar. So, but it really helps to be able to just trust how good it's going to sound with everyone else in the band playing it.
Does it pretty much sound like what you heard in your head, or do they surprise you?
It's better, obviously, because I'm still just me sitting there trying to picture it. But yeah, it's great.
I know the music on the album, as we just heard in those two songs, is just as direct as the lyrics, and it's the first album in 15 years or more where you haven't had keys, and that must make touring and loading in and out a little bit more easy. But did you know that was going to be like this on this album? Did you make a decision, we're not going to use any keys this time?
There wasn't really a decision in advance. It was just kind of how the songs played out, and when you're recording off, at least for us, because there's not a keyboard player per se in the band, that's one of the last things that goes on a recording. So when we're recording the songs with just the four of us playing them, when it's done, these songs just didn't really call out for a lot of decoration. It was just more about the immediacy of it.
There is a little bit of wonderful and sparkling decoration on the album. Talk about some of the people that joined you in the studio.
We were lucky to have several guest vocalists, the most we've ever had on this record. And some of them were recorded with us actually in the studio in North Carolina, and others we did via the magic of the internet. But Stephen Merritt and Katie Crutchfield are on one song. One of the songs we just played, Break the Glass, Sabrina Ellis from the band A Giant Dog sings on that. Skylar Gudaz, who's a local singer-songwriter, she sings on a song called Black Thread. And Dave Bazan from Pedro the Lion, recently reformed, he sings on a song called Cloud of Hate. So quite a few we got on there.
That's quite a lineup of guests. Very impressive. Well, the new album, What a Time to Be Alive, is fantastic. We're live here in the KEXP studios with Superchunk, who play tonight at Numos. We talking into a couple more songs?
Of course. The first one we're going to do is the title track from the record.
Some kind of light divides your look, but something stinks and you will never smell right. There's a crooked line that runs through every crease in this mouth. Do you wanna take us all the way back? To see the run and know the skies are what a time to be alive. Discover the shame lies. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Now you've been carving tales for dummies out of live oak and out of pine. Let's turn your heroes into mummies, throw them straight onto the fire. Just below the surface lurking shadows be their newest straw. Clinging to the myth that you were cheated, of the myth that you were robbed. Well, there's a crooked line that runs through every crease in this map. Do you wanna take us all the way back? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. To see the run and know the skies are what a time to be alive. Discover the shape of all the lives. What a time to be alive.
Superchunk live on KEXP. John, your doodad went that way this time. You want to go grab it?
Do you see it? It's right.
I see it by Mac. He is drumming his heart out today. All the pieces are flying around the room. Superchunk live here in the KEXP studios, playing songs from the new album, What a Time to Be Alive. You're going to play something older now.
Song's very old.
It is. You know, I tried to tally up how many albums you've done and with singles collections and stuff, but about 11 studio albums?
11 studio albums plus several long compilations. So.
And this is from your second studio album, if I'm not mistaken, going all the way back to 1991. No Pocky for Kitty. Very fun to say the name of that record.
And the song's called Throwing Things.
Awesome. Superchunk live on KEXP, the new album, What a Time to Be Alive. Mac, Jim, John, Jason, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Always so great to see you. Check out the new record. It's fantastic. You've got to tune to KEXP Seattle.
Discover new music at kexp.org.